Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you something new that I've been working on with meter plugs. It's unique. I think it's really useful and it's free. And I'll tell you what it is in a minute. But first of all, I want to tell you why we created it. So the most common question I get asked these days, literally every day now, is how loud will my music be played back online? Because everybody knows that online streaming services like YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, TIDAL are measuring the loudness of the music or the tracks that we upload, and they're turning loud stuff down to stop us being blasted by sudden changes in level, because users hate that and they want to create a great user experience. The problem is each of the streaming services measures loudness in a different way, uses that information differently, and has a different reference level when they decide how loud to play things back. So it's really confusing for people. You see all kinds of guidelines and recipes online. It's almost impossible to predict how loud something's going to be played back in advance, which is why we created the Loudness Penalty Analyzer. You can find it at www.loudnesspenalty.com, and it's really simple to use. Let me show that to you now. I'm going to use a small test file so that it's quick. A real file will take a bit longer to process than this, but you simply drag the file onto the website or use the file select button there, and it processes for a few seconds, maybe a little bit longer depending on your system, and then it tells you how much that file will be turned down or up by 5 of the most popular online streaming services. And that's it. It really is that simple. I'll talk in a little bit more detail about exactly what those numbers mean and what you can do with them in a second. But before I do, I just want to make a few important points. Number one is this music hasn't been uploaded anywhere. The audio file stays in your browser, on your computer. We don't store it anywhere. We don't listen to it. It's completely secure, or it's as secure as your computer already is. There's no extra risk by trying this out for a piece of music or a piece of music that your clients might send you. The second thing is that these values are accurate. I've measured online streaming services in the past and kind of told people that, YouTube is roughly minus 13 LUFS and Spotify is roughly minus 14 LUFS. Those values can only ever be approximations because the online streaming services don't use LUFS to make their decisions. Actually, that's not strictly true. TIDAL do, but the others don't. These values are real-world values based on our research. They are more accurate than LUFS estimates, and in our tests, the majority of files we're getting within half a dB of the playback level that the streaming services use. So this process is secure and it's accurate. And finally, I want to say right away that regardless of what kind of value you see, doesn't necessarily mean your music is going to sound quiet. You can see that the example I've got there, for example, is going to be turned down by 1.4 dBs on YouTube. That doesn't mean it's going to sound quieter than everything else. It just means it was 1.4 dBs louder than YouTube's reference level. What you do find is that the louder you make your music before you upload, the bigger the loudness penalty will be, and the more it is reduced in level on playback across all of the services. And let me just demonstrate that for you. If we come back to my test file here, I have another version of this which is 2 dBs louder. So if I choose to analyze another file here and drag in the louder version, it's exactly the same audio but just increased in level by 2 dBs. Sure enough, you can see that all of these values here have dropped by 2 dBs. 2 dBs louder going in means 2 dBs more loudness penalty. If this was a more dynamic track, I'd be hoping to score closer to 0 on YouTube to allow the music that room to breathe and to sound better. But the great thing about loudness penalty is you don't have to take my word for it. You can experiment yourself. Let's say you get a penalty of -1 on YouTube and you want to know how it's going to compare with reference tracks, other material that's up there on YouTube. You just reduce the level of your mastered file by 1 dB, play it back, and then play the reference tracks from YouTube. I recommend you use the Chrome browser and make sure you have the volume slider for YouTube all the way up so that you get a fair comparison. But that will tell you exactly how your song is going to sound when you upload it, before you upload it. And the same thing applies to all of the other services as well. You also have the option on the website to enter your email address and be sent a report, a more detailed report telling you the different values for the streaming services. You might choose to forward that on to your clients, especially if you're in the situation where people are asking you to make things louder and louder and you think maybe it's not beneficial for the material. It can be very effective to show somebody, well, look, we can do this, but here's what's going to happen if we do. You could even create reference files at the slightly lower levels suggested by the loudness penalty so that they can compare those directly with music that's on Spotify or YouTube or wherever and hear the effect of the loudness penalty for themselves. But I think the main thing the loudness penalty allows you to do is take control of the process of uploading your music to these online streaming services. Nobody likes the fact that you get unpredictable results, that something that sounded fine to you when you worked on it in the studio and your clients approved it feels different when the loudness normalization is applied and its relationship to those other songs changes. The loudness penalty website gives you the information you need to understand in advance what's going to happen to your music and compensate for it if you need to. I find that really useful, really valuable. I'm pretty sure you will as well. Just a couple of other things to tell you about the site. I mentioned before that you can have a detailed report sent to you by entering your email. That's not a subscription. It's just a single email with those details for you. But you can also tick an extra box at the bottom of the page, which will sign you up to a 5-part email course, which tells you in more detail how loudness penalty works, what the differences between the different streaming services are, exactly what happens with positive loudness penalty values on the different sites, how to optimize your loudness penalty values, what the best loudness penalty values are, and how to get better results as you're working on the music rather than having to wait, test it in loudness penalty, go back and work through things again. So if you're interested, maybe that's something that you would like to check out. So there you go. I hope you like the idea. I hope you find the site useful. We've made loudness penalty free because we think these ideas are important. Whatever you think of loudness normalization, it's here to stay and it's going to have an influence on the way that everyone listens to music going into the future. And we think the easier it is for people to understand what the effects are, the better the opportunities for them to make their music sound better and for all of us to get better results in future. So please, if you agree with us, please share the site, tell people about the idea, and tell us how you would like to see us improve it. We've got all kinds of ideas for how the site could develop and for what else we could do in future if people like the idea. So let us know. We would love to hear from you. Loudness Penalty was developed by Meterplugs. You can find out more about their products at meterplugs.com. My name is Ian Shepherd. I run a website called Production Advice. Thanks for listening.